We're 3 years removed from it. Some of the players that were involved with it are already on their rookie max extensions. Scottie Barnes, Franz Wagner, Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, I think, are the only 4. But we're 3 years removed. We're in max contract territory. Let's revisit the 2021 NBA draft and see who goes in the top 10. We are back at it again on Amateur Hour Clips, where we continue to provide you with Toronto Raptors news coverage and analysis. But over on this channel, we take the best highlights and segments from the main channel, Amateur Hour Sports, where we do live streams covering the Raptors even further and put them on this channel to make it a whole lot easier for you to consume the content. If you like what you see from this video today, make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we're always dropping content over here that you're not going to want to miss out on, especially if you are a Toronto Raptors fan. And also along the way, it really does support the channel if you smash that like button. Now, let's get back to the video. Does Scottie Barnes go number 1? Last year, he wasn't the number 1 player in this redraft, but this year, we'll see if things can change. So for starters, there's more than 10 players because I don't like to do... If I feel like there's a guy who's just missing out on the top 10, I don't want to completely omit him from the list because then it'll be like, how could you not put this guy? So if the guy is not here, I have 12 players. If he's not on my list, he wasn't really close to being on either. But I feel like 10, 11, 12 were really close and were toying with me that I decided to put all of them on the list. We're going to start with number 12 on the list, which is Austin Reaves. Austin Reaves, if think about it right now, by the way, how old is Austin Reaves, do you think? It's a bit crazy because he hasn't been in the league like super long, but he was an undrafted free agent, did not get drafted. I believe the only undrafted player who was on this list. I'd go 12th here. Austin Reaves is 26 years old now, so he's not exactly like a super young player, but he's not old either. I think one of the best traits Austin Reaves has is ability to attack off of pick and rolls. Really good pick and roll ball handler, good shooter, a really nice complementary player that isn't costing the Lakers too much. A really great gem of a find for the Lakers to be rolling with. I think his age played on my mind a little bit when I was trying to evaluate him to players in the 11th spot and the 10th spot on this list. Because number 11 on the list is Herb Jones. Again, I nearly put him in the 10th position, but he goes 11th in this redraft. He was drafted in a bit of a steal of a spot at 35th overall. I remember the first time I watched Herb Jones play, the Raptors were playing against the Pelicans, and Herb Jones was matched up against Pascal Siakam in some peak Pascal Siakam days. He was matched up against Pascal Siakam. Siakam really had a tough time. And it was early on in Herb Jones' career as a second-round pick, and I was like, dude, this Herb Jones guy is really good. Do people, I'm not as in tune with the rest of the league sometimes. Do people know about this? Like, is this a known thing? And it's like, yeah, he's picking up a lot of steam, and rightfully so. Fantastic defender who took the leap as somebody who's able to be an efficient three-point shooter, turning into such a great 3-and-D mold. He's a phenomenal defender, getting better as a three-point shooter. Great player to have with the New Orleans Pelicans. He is slightly edged by his teammate, though, Trey Murphy. I think the efficiency and the ability, the higher level of ability to score is the reason I went with Trey Murphy ahead of Herb Jones. As much as Herb Jones is a fantastic defender, Trey Murphy is just so goddamn efficient as a shooter that I had to put him in this 10th position here. Not sure he's like the most talented out of the 3 guys that we've gone for in this list, but I think his impact is the greatest out of all of them as a result of his ability to shoot. So for that reason, we're going to put Trey Murphy here. He actually went 17th overall, and the biggest thing he's progressed on is his ability as a three-point shooter, which is the reason why he lands at number 10 on my list. Now we have a bit of a jump, I'd say. These guys were comfortably going to be a top 10 pick. Starting with Jalen Green, number 9. Now, as much as it's a comfortable top 10 pick, I think Jalen Green could realistically end up at 5th on this list. That's probably the highest that he could realistically go. No, the highest he realistically could have gone is 6th. He actually went 2nd overall in the draft. He was just branded, and I remember covering this draft as such a dominant isolation scorer, a guy who could get buckets. Like, this guy got you buckets. And for a Raptors team that needed that, and maybe still needs it, I was really excited about the potential of them getting him in the draft. But he ended up going 2nd overall to the Rockets, which, good thing because the Raptors got the superior player in my book in Scottie Barnes, but took a lot of good strides last season, is still very inefficient, which is one of the reasons why I knock him on this list. I think you could easily convince me he should be a lot higher, but the inefficiencies, and I'm not completely sold on his game yet. If Houston were sold on his game, he'd have an extension and a max extension, but he doesn't. And a big reason why is the inefficiency in his game. Just, is that a guy that's going to be playing winning basketball down the line? I'm like supreme winning basketball. I'm not sure, which is why I go 9. Number 8, and I almost switched these two, but Jonathan Kuminga for me, he's not as good as Jalen Green is right now, but he goes 8th in my redraft. He actually went 7th overall in this draft, which was a little bit low actually, considering some of the hype that he had, but like tiny bit lower than expected. Regardless, he really blossomed last season in a bigger role. He's getting better. He's the most athletic player from this draft class, so scaling up is going to be a lot easier for him than perhaps some other guys. And I think playing in an environment where he gets more touches is just going to be massive for his game. If he wasn't on the Golden State Warriors, like maybe if he was on any other team in the NBA, I think people would think so much more highly of Jonathan Kuminga because he'd have such a bigger impact. But for now, he's still doing a lot for this team, even with a log jam of players, and I think his role is only going to stand to improve. I think we're gonna see Kuminga in 20-point per game territory at some point in the next few years. 15 points per game last season. His role should continue to increase. Golden State are hesitant to pay him the max, which is a report that I saw today. Understandably, that's a lot of money, but I won't rule out Kuminga playing himself into that conversation this season. He should take the year to try and figure that out. One sec. Number 7, another one that's kind of interchangeable, but I feel like he's comfortably above the two players below him. He could move up. I had him one spot higher previously, but I just kept it here. But it is Jalen Suggs. He actually went 5th overall to the Orlando Magic. It was rather shocking when the Raptors passed on him with the 4th overall pick, but they made the right calls. I have Barnes higher than Jalen Suggs on this list. A year ago, Jalen Suggs would not have been on this list, probably. But he has improved tremendously as a defender and as a three-point shooter. You know, coming in when I wanted the Raptors to draft him 4th overall, and a famously bad take, obviously. I mean, a lot of people wanted the Raptors to draft 5th overall. Some of the hiccups from his game that made people not want to draft him was his three-point shooting and a little bit his defense, which are now his two strongest attributes towards being a player that plays winning basketball. This is a player you have on your team if you want to win a championship. He is such a great complementary piece to a starting 5. He's not your lead guy, which is why he's 7th on this list, but what a fantastic asset to have for any team in the NBA to use a guy like this who has great size, great shooting, great defense, and great ball handling. Fantastic for the way he has progressed. Confidence through the roof. Yeah, his confidence playing in that bigger role has really taken a 180 from what looked like perhaps a bust in year 1, honestly. Completely reversed that fantastic player. I originally had him 6th, and I had this player in 7th. But there is so much to like about Jalen Johnson, who actually went 20th overall. But my God, did he take a jump last season. Should have probably got some most improved player considerations. But Jalen Johnson is a duo sort of player in the power forward spot. He can handle the ball a little bit. Great scorer, great rebounder, good defender, great size. Like the Hawks, through all the crap they went through last season, they found an absolute gem of a player to continue to build with going forward. They've had a lot of misses in drafts, the Atlanta Hawks, in the last 5, 6, 7 years. This by no means is one. Scaled up a ton last season, and I think he can continue to scale up his role on this dwindling Hawks team. And, maybe could he be the driving force of this team going forward? He's very good. And if you don't know now, you will know very, very soon. Number 5 on the list, top 5 were comfy. The top 5 were the solidified top 5. By the end of the list, it's Evan Mobley. People think he should have won the Rookie of the Year award for this draft class. Did not go to him, ended up going to Scottie Barnes. But the thing about Evan Mobley since that time, Well, a lot of other guys in his class are getting better, developing new skills. It feels like Evan Mobley has relatively stayed as a similar player. Still a great defender, fantastic defender. We know that. Offensively, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they got Jared Allen, they got Evan Mobley. They should commit to one, and you should commit to the younger player. But Jared Allen's probably better than Evan Mobley on, you'd argue, both ends of the floor. Definitely on offense. The reality is he still can't shoot. There's still issues there, but as a rim runner, fantastic player. Borderline elite defender. That's enough to put the former third overall pick in the 5th spot on my list. But, it's an interesting situation brewing with Cleveland. They know they got to make a decision, but they just won't do it. So we'll see what happens. Number 4 on the list, maybe a bit low for some of you, but it is the former 1st overall pick, and that is Cade Cunningham. I think the biggest thing for me with Cade is health has been a bit of a factor, but the efficiency in his game. He's a pretty inefficient three-point shooter. Takes a lot of pull-ups, but he's not super efficient at it. Obviously, the most gifted player in this class was the unanimous 1st overall pick, if that's the right word. But the reason he's 4 and not higher is just down to the efficiency. Maybe, I'm excited to see what he looks like on a better team one day, but is this somebody I see scaling up as a 1st option player? Probably not, which, you could maybe say for the guys who are ahead of him on this list. Gifted passer, gifted scorer, great player, but we're talking some real dogs in the top 3 here. Number 3, Alperen Sengun. I so wanted to put him higher on this list, but for me, he has every tool on offense. Every tool. Amazing passer to the high post. Dominant paint scorer. Dominant post-up player. Showing signs of a three-point shot. The problem will be for him can a really good team get away with him on defense at center? Because he's not a great defender still. He's getting better, but he's not a great defender, which you like having your center being a great defender. Jokic provided the mold of, figuring out how to be effective enough and for your team to hide it enough to win a championship, because Jokic's also just bonkers good. That will be the decisions around Alperen Sengun going forward, which is an interesting one. But nonetheless, a steal at 16th overall. Sorry, there's a typo up there, but steal at 16th overall. The Raptors, who were flirting with like a late top 10 pick in that draft class, I wanted him. I wanted Sengun. 8th, 9th, 10th overall, I wanted Sengun. And the fact that he kept slipping was very frustrating on draft night. I wanted the Raptors to trade back in to get him. Didn't materialize. The Houston Rockets traded for him after the Oklahoma City Thunder drafted him. And what a decision that was. All-star ability. Definitely has all-star ability. I think he should have been in that conversation this season, which is why I wanted to toss him at number 2. But just the defense scares me a little bit. And I feel like if I was drafting a player, I would go with Franz Wagner at 2nd overall instead of him. He actually went 8th overall to the Orlando Magic. One of my worst takes of all time. Definitely did not believe in Franz Wagner ahead of the draft. I thought he was a guy that was, decent at a bunch of things, not great at anything. He's now great at a lot of things. He's not necessarily the lead guy with Orlando right now, but he's got a lot of tools as a shooter, as a scorer, as a passer, getting better on defense, great size for the position. Amazing core to be working with going forward for that team, having Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner involved. But as much as Franz maybe would have gone 1st overall in this redraft last year, he's not 1st this year. Because our boy, Scottie Barnes, who's 1st overall in this one. Scottie Barnes is, I'd say, the popular choice at this point to go 1st overall. Do-it-all star. There's no facet of his game that I don't think is already usable in the NBA. He's good at everything. He's great at a lot of things, but he's good minimum at everything with a chance of continuing to scale up. I don't understand why people think he cannot be the 1st option on a contending team. He has every skill. He has every skill. and he's only going to get better at 23 years old. That is the first overall pick. To a bit of my surprise, kind of looking at Reddit forums about this, the real consensus top choice is Scottie Barnes, even in just general NBA forums, which was a bit of a surprise to me. And look, if that's the case, if the general NBA consensus is Scottie Barnes is the best player from the draft class, like it should be obvious. Scottie Barnes is the best player. There's a lot of great players in this draft class. The Raptors struck gold and got the best player at 4th overall. Another famous bad take from your boy, not wanting Scottie Barnes in draft night. I wanted Jalen Suggs, just like probably the majority of Raptors fans did, but thankfully I was wrong. And the Raptors took Barnes and got the best player in the draft class. And as an added bonus, Gregory, Barnes's dogs and my dog get along very well. So that's a bonus. That, you know what? That's the cherry on top of Barnes being the best player and would go 1st overall in my 2021 redraft.